Okay, welcome. Welcome everyone to session number 253 of Kevin Reed's A Course in Miracles. All right, today we are still in the Manual for Teachers, and we're still focusing on the first question. Remember, the manual is set up as if they're questions. All right, and this main question is, what are the characteristics of God's teachers? Okay, and today we're still in the first set of characteristics here. All right. Well, we're working on the 6th and the 7th, Roman numeral 6 and Roman numeral 7. All right. We are up to defenselessness and generosity. First, we'll work on defenselessness. Okay. Now, when Jesus is referring to teachers, when he says God's teachers have learned how to be simple, all right, at this point, he's talking about what he refers to as advanced teachers. Right? A person, I would take the example of Jesus, the historic Jesus. He was an advanced teacher. There are many others in other traditions, other eras of history. Right? There are people who rose to this level of awareness. All right? The level of awareness that the body is not who they are, it's not what they are, and they are connected to the oneness, which is outside of form, outside of anything in this realm of form. All right. Okay. So that's the advanced teacher. With the knowledge that Jesus knows that we're working our way up that ladder. All right. And that was very well put out in the first characteristic, which was trust. Where as we work our way up, we practice trusting in the Holy Spirit. We practice trusting in Jesus. I always use those two terms, they're intertwined. They can substitute for one another, because Jesus to me is the manifestation of the Holy Spirit, and I believe the Holy Spirit is the memory of God, the memory of who you are in relationship to God. And the more we begin to trust in their help, right? When in any situation, I come into my mind and I ask them, help me to see this correctly. And you can put it in your own words, as long as this is what you mean. All right? What does truth look like? What does peace look like? I'm willing to see the innocence. I'm willing to look past the form. Help me to do that. And let the answers arise in your awareness. And as that happens, as we work our way up, and we trust more and more because we see the results, you will see the results. And the more you see the results, the more you want that. All right? And so we keep working on it and working on it. And as the old saying goes, some days you eat the bear and some days the bear eats you. So some days you miss the target. And the thing is to get right back on. Even in those moments, you can ask Jesus, help me to see myself correctly. Help me to go back on the path. That's all. And then continue chopping wood and carrying water. All right, whatever it is you do. All right. But that first important thing is that development of trust. And that brings us all the way up the ladder, right, to where you just ultimately know that you are not separated from your Creator, and you're not separated from anyone else who thinks they're an individual. All right. The mind is always one. And once we have risen to that level, we realize we're not a body. All right? Although we might still be roaming around in form, we realize this is not who I am. This was Jesus' experience. He was in form, but he knew he was not that. He knew he was not that. All right? No matter what kind of, bloody and horrible scenes, I was brought up in that tradition that, just emphasized the brutality and the suffering, and that's the way it goes. You got to work your way through that. All right? In our way of thinking, in the Course, Jesus knew he was not the body. So it was like, all right, do what you want, but I know where I am. I know where I'm going. Although he knew he wasn't going anywhere, he was always there in the presence of his Creator. But that's enough about me, as they say. It's enough talking, in other words. Let's begin. Defenselessness, section 6. God's teachers have learned how to be simple. They have no dreams that need defense against the truth. They do not try to make themselves. Their joy comes from their understanding who created them. And does what God created need defense? No one can become an advanced teacher of God until he fully understands that defenses are but foolish guardians of mad illusions. The more grotesque the dream, the fiercer and more powerful its defenses seem to be. Yet when the teacher of God finally agrees to look past them, he finds that nothing was there. Slowly, at first, he lets himself be undeceived. But then he learns faster as his trust increases. It is not danger that becomes when defenses are laid down. It is not danger that comes when defenses are laid down. It is safety. It is peace. It is joy. And it is God. Right? When all the defenses are laid down. And when do we do that? When we lay them down, we realize we don't need them. All right? So God's teachers have learned to be simple. All right? They have no dreams that need defense against the truth. All right? A dream that would need defense against the truth is, the big one is that I'm here as an individual. All right? And I defend against it. I don't want to hear it. All right? Every time you tempted to seek for something other than the form, that's protecting that's a defense against the truth. Right? Like even me, I gotta make a cup of coffee, I gotta get some cold water, I gotta have the camera at the right angle, I gotta have my pen, of course. All these things that before I could begin my little exercise here, you have to notice that sometimes you have to notice these are defenses. I'm just putting it off. Because the ego is telling me certain things. Right? And then you start to notice in your life, all right, all these things that are defenses against the truth of who you really are. All right? So the teachers of God, they have no dreams that need defense against the truth. All right? So we have no dreams of separation and all that comes with it. They do not try to make themselves. All right? All through the Course, Jesus, you'll see, if you study the Course and read it enough, there's always the contrast between making and creating. Making is what goes on in the ego thought system. Creating is what goes on in the oneness, in heaven, so to speak. In our true place, in our true home, we are creators. And the creators just extend everywhere, everything to every place. All right? They just keep on extending everything. All right? All the joy and the happiness. All right? So they do not try to make themselves. Right? We talked about, when we did the text, about self-concepts and constant adjustments. We always have to make adjustments. You always have self-concepts. And even as you grow and age and mature, some of you mature, that we have these self-concepts. All right? We made that. All right? Just like we made up the idea that I'm an individual and all of you are separate from me. But he says God's teachers don't try to do that. They don't try to make themselves. All right? Their joy comes from their understanding who created them. So the joy comes from understanding that I was an emanation of the Creator. I am part of the oneness. I cannot separate from the mind that created me, the mind that thought of me. I am part of that. I am that. As they say, there is no place where the Father ends and the Son begins. We are that. So their joy comes from understanding who created them. And does what God created need defense? Right? Once you realize who you really are, you realize you don't need a defense. Right? No one can become an advanced teacher of God until he fully understands that defenses are but foolish guardians of mad illusions. So any defense that I have is a guardian of an illusion. The primary illusion being that I separated from God and I stole everything that he could do, I could do better. You know? And now I'm going to get punished for it because the guilt automatically comes up. All right? And these are all the illusions: separation, guilt, and fear. Fear of reprisal, fear of punishment. And because of the fear, I have to defend. Now I think I have to defend against God. And down here in form, I say down here as if it's up and down, but here in this illusion, in our experience, the fear presents itself in so many ways, myriad ways. I always liked that word since I was in high school. There's just myriad ways in which fear presents itself. And so I have to defend against it. You need health insurance. You need life insurance. You need car insurance. You need a job to pay for your car. You need a job to pay for your house. You need a job to support your family. And there's always the fear that you're going to lose it. Something's going to happen. We're going to lose that. Right? I mean, in my life, I was very, very anxious, and I always told myself I can't have those things. I mean, I can have a car, okay, and the necessary insurance and all that, try to scratch out a place to live. But I was always afraid that I was going to lose my job because I would work in, things that didn't conform to, what you're supposed to do, I guess, and there was always the time when, the boss or whoever ran it, the manager would come up after working there, a couple of years or whatever. They would just one day tell you, well, don't come in tomorrow. Why not? Well, we're closing. Oh, okay. And I remember one time I was working as a massage therapist in a clinic, and which turned out to be a really kind of shady kind of clinic, but who knew? And you need the money sometimes. But one day the manager comes up and says, "Oh, don't come in tomorrow." "Oh, why? What happened?" "Oh, we're replacing you with this modality. Your modality is going to be scrapped, and we're replacing it with this, simply because that modality paid more in insurance." So there it was. There was always that insecurity. That's the word I've been waiting to pop up in my head. I was always very insecure. Don't get me wrong, whenever I was working, I was really happy, no matter what job I was doing. All right, I worked in restaurants, and I was very, very happy. But you see, that's like a nonconformist type of job, you know, and how could you, I mean, there are people who do build their families and make a life for themselves and that type of work, but I never felt secure. All right. Anyway, that's a long way of saying that, you know, these are the advanced teacher of God. You become an advanced teacher of God when you fully understand that everything I was defending against, right, was just they were guarding these mad illusions, right, that I'm on my own. I have to go get this. Everybody's different than me, and everybody's trying to get what I need, and all that, right? And I don't want to end up on 8th Avenue sitting there grubbing cigarettes. That was weird. I always had that image in my mind. I was afraid of that. And believe you, I had plenty of support around me if I really needed it. All right. But if teacher of God, you become an advanced teacher of God when you realize that all these things you're doing, right, you're defending, you're guarding these illusions. And the illusion is that I'm separate, right? And everything that comes with that. All right, even if you're not aware of that's the initial illusion. I separated from God, now he's pissed and he's going to get me. Right? Even if you're not aware of that, which, I mean, you know, really, 99.9% of people are not. You know, you're aware of that you have to do certain things. You have to protect yourself, right? I mean, even way back when, and living in Queens County, you had to lock your car really securely. All right? And now, you know, the way things are now, everybody got to lock their car, you know? And you got to lock your doors. I know there's really nice, peaceful communities throughout the world, throughout the United States, but more and more, the idea is coming, oh, I got to lock my doors. You know, it's either that or I got to buy a gun, right? These are things to protect against the illusion of all this separateness, this chaos, right? These are guardians, all right? And I'm not saying don't do anything, live this way, live that way. What Jesus is telling us here, and he's going to tell us soon, just notice, just realize that what you're focusing on is the ego thought system. What you're focusing on is that thought system of separation and everything, the myriad mishigash, all right, we use some alliteration, that comes with it, that comes with the thought of separation. All right. No one can become an advanced teacher of God until he fully understands that defenses are but foolish guardians of mad illusions. All right? And we're not telling you don't take care of yourself. Nobody's saying that. We're just saying become aware. Oh, look what I'm doing. Right? Look what I'm doing. You know, I'm doing this because I heard that this is what's happening. You know, no matter what this is, you know, you have to do this to prep or to God. You know, just notice, oh yeah, look, I'm really focused on guarding my individuality. Just notice it. And if you want help with it, that's what starts the progress. That's what starts the process. Help me to see correctly. Help me to see correctly. I think I need this to keep myself safe. And you start to realize that you're really obsessing on it. So then you turn inside and say, help me to see correctly. And that's the process up the ladder. So Jesus is never telling you, don't do this, don't do that. Do this. It's just notice what you're doing. And if it's not bringing you the joy that surpasses all understanding, then maybe it could be corrected. Right? Maybe your idea and your awareness could be corrected. And he says, the more grotesque the dream, the fiercer and more powerful its defenses seem to be. And living in the United States at this current time, if you watch any kind of media, any kind of news media, no matter what side of the aisle, as they say, that you fall on, right? Doesn't matter what political party you belong to. Each political party is presenting a picture, right, that is, look, this is grotesque. If this guy gets power, this is going to happen, right? Or people focus on a group, certain groups of people. If we allow this to happen, then this is going to happen. We have to do this. And believe me, these stories, you can check out your own life, really. I mean, just check it out. There's no guilt, right? Just be willing to look and say, oh yeah, look, that's what I'm thinking. And it builds up to where somebody needs to buy an automatic rifle, you know, or they have to arm themselves to the hilt, right? Because of something grotesque is going to happen to them. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. It happens on both sides of the aisle, as they say. All right. And so we think we need. The more grotesque the dream, the fiercer and more powerful its defenses seem to be. I have to make powerful defenses against this. Yet, when the teacher of God finally agrees to look past them, when I'm willing to say, Jesus, help me with this. I'm willing to look past this grotesque dream that I have. Help me to see this correctly. And right now, Jesus says in the text, and he'll refer to these grotesque dreams poetically as the clouds. If you have difficulty walking through the clouds, these grotesque dreams, he goes, imagine yourself holding my hand. And I assure you, this will be no idle fantasy. It's one of the most beautiful lines I've ever read in my life. All right? At other times I could be brought to tears with that. All right? But this is what he's saying. this is the teacher of God who finally agrees to look past it, finally agrees to say, Jesus, help me with this. I'm willing to see the correction. I'm willing to see the truth. Right? So when the teacher of God finally agrees to look past them, he finds there was nothing there. Right? And here comes something very valuable. The next sentence. He goes slowly at first. Slowly at first. He lets himself be undeceived. All right? It's a process. Jesus knows the process. He's not expecting us to go, oh, wait, as I look at my gun rack, all right? Or I look at all the, the schedule of events that I'm going to protest different things, and the signs and whatever. I look at everything, all right, and I'm willing to say, okay, help me to see these things correctly. So he says, slowly, you're undeceiving yourself. And what he means by that is slowly, you're undoing the ego. You're undoing that belief that you're separated from your Creator, which is the initial deception, and which produces itself in billions of forms. So as we look at certain things, and I say, all right, do I really need, 17 insurance policies? Or whatever it is, He says, slowly at first, you let himself be undeceived, and you become willing to look past it, right? You just be willing to question, right? Is this really the truth? Is this really what I need? Right? Nobody's telling you to stop, just telling you to become aware, right? And start to have your perceptions corrected. Start allowing yourself to be undeceived. Start allowing yourself to be undeceived. And remember that initial deception is that you are separated from the oneness. You're separated from everybody. So slowly at first, he lets himself be undeceived. But he learns faster as his trust increases. Once again, we come back to that all-important characteristic of God's teachers. Trust. Trust in the Holy Spirit. Trust in the memory of God and the memory of who you are that is in your mind. It came with us into the dream. It came with you. Right? It's just waiting to be welcomed, waiting to be called upon. Right? Jesus is just waiting. He says, if you want to be like me, I'll help you. He says, and if not, I'll wait till you change your mind. All right? So that memory of who you are is waiting for you to just say, okay, maybe there's a better way. Help me to see this correctly. I'm willing. All right? And then you start to learn faster because the trust will increase. You will see results. Even if you think you have to defend yourself against the clerk or the bus driver or the passenger on the bus or the person on the street who disrespected you and just kept on going, and now you're roiling. I should have said this. I should have done that, and this and that, and you are not at peace. Right? So if you're noticing that, this is how you can reach out and just say, okay, I'm willing to see the episode differently. I'm willing to see, what does peace look like? All right? And even in the smallest little things like that, you will start to see. You'll start just to become aware. Oh, you'll get a different picture of how it was, how it could be. And you become more and more, just the trust reinforces itself. You'll want to call on Jesus, Holy Spirit, more and more, because you realize peace resides with them, and they are just waiting for you to have it. All right? You just need to ask. All right? Love waits on welcome, not on time. All right? So they're just waiting to be welcomed. Help me to see this correctly, is welcoming the Holy Spirit and Jesus. All right? So as you do this slowly at first, all right, you're letting yourself be undeceived. And then he learns faster as his trust increases. It is not danger that comes when defenses are laid down. It is safety. It is peace, it is joy, and it is God. All right? So as we slowly lay down these defenses, because he says when you're willing to see past them, it dawns on you, oh, there was nothing there. There was really nothing to be afraid of. All right? And believe me, don't be silly. He's not telling you to go to the most dangerous part of town and walk down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning. All right? He's not telling you, you're on the 6 train at 2 a.m. I know people who do that, but not me. All right? So you don't be reckless, in other words. You just ask, help me to see correctly. And as you grow, you realize that you're not this body. Right? And then when you get to that place, right, it's not danger that comes. It's safety. You realize you're in the mind of God. There's nothing threatening. You're in the mind of God. There's only peace. And there's a joy in that awareness. And you are with God. You are with your Creator. And that's what it is to be an advanced teacher. And you will get there. You will get there. Once the journey has begun, the end is certain, as he says. That's the trust. I trust that that is true. Once the journey has begun, the end is certain. I just need to keep practicing, noticing that when my defenses are up, and saying, wait, I don't want to go down that road. All right. Help me to see correctly. Then we realize, slowly at first, all right, slowly at first, we learn to be undeceived. I like that. And then we rise up that ladder to the awareness of unspeakable joy. And so that's defenselessness, right? We just come to notice. So you don't have to ignore the body's needs, right? You just be aware. You just be aware that you're becoming really too focused, obsessive almost, right? Of course, you need to, look presentable, as they say. So you do your best. I mean, that's all I can do. And whatever the custom calls for. But it's when we obsess upon it, when I have to have certain clothing and certain shoes and certain hairstyle and everything has got to be up to date and all that, all right? Or even my health, when I realize that every little thing, I gotta I got to watch out for that. I got to watch out for that. Jesus is not saying don't ignore that. Take the proper steps to help yourself. But just notice that you are focusing on your body. And at any moment, you can ask for help with that. Okay? You can ask for help with that. And that's how we undo the deception, undo the ego. We undo our defenses. We decrease them little by little until we feel safe enough to just let them all go. And we relinquish them, as I like to say. Alrighty then. So just be aware. All right. Just be aware that all these things in the illusion represent that idea of separation. Okay. Generosity. The seventh characteristic of the advanced teacher of God. The term generosity has special meaning to the teacher of God. It is not the usual meaning of the word. In fact, it is a meaning that must be learned, and learned very carefully. Like all the other attributes of God's teachers, this one rests ultimately on trust. For without trust, no one can be generous in the true sense. To the world, generosity means giving away, in the sense of giving up. To the teachers of God, it means giving away in order to keep. This has been emphasized throughout the text and the workbook, but is perhaps more alien to the thinking of the world than many other ideas in our curriculum. Its greater strangeness lies merely in the obviousness of its reversal of the world's thinking. In the clearest way possible, and at the simplest of levels, the word means the exact opposite to the teachers of God and to the world. So to the teacher of God, generosity is one thing. To the world, it's another. Right? To the world, it's giving something. Right? You give to the poor. That means I'm taking something that I have, I'm giving it to the poor, and no matter how much I have a little less. Right? And that's what generosity is in the thinking of the world. Right? To God's teachers, right, it's different. God's teachers realize they have everything. They are everything. They are connected to something that can't be diminished. And they are just willing to extend that to everyone. They're willing to give everything to everyone. And they realize by doing that, it increases the love. Right? It increases everything. It doesn't diminish. That's why what Jesus is talking about, throughout the text, he keeps telling us in different ways that giving and receiving are simultaneous. Giving and receiving are the same. Right? When he talks about forgiving our brothers, forgiving the others, he talks about a gift. When I'm willing to see the truth about the other, that's the gift. But I'm not diminished. I in turn, get to see the truth about myself. So when I'm willing to have the innocence of the other shown to me, I'm willing to see past all their defenses, all their craziness. When I'm willing to look past that, I get to the innocence, and I get to realize their innocence and my innocence. Even though in form, they don't change their act, more than likely. But it's in the mind. It's there in the bank for them, so to speak. The realization of their innocence is in their mind for them to tap into someday. And meanwhile, my awareness of my innocence is reinforced. So the giving and receiving are simultaneous. What I'm giving to you, I'm receiving automatically. And that goes for the projection of guilt also. All right? When I'm projecting guilt, I can't escape it because I'm making guilt real. All right? I'm making the original guilt. I destroyed heaven. Right? It's the original guilt, and I'm trying to get rid of that feeling. Oh, I hate that feeling. So we spend our lifetimes projecting the guilt, trying to find the guilty party. It just brings to mind a woman that lives in our complex here. I mean, every time, 9 out of 10 times, that you run into her, elevator, hallway, on a street, in a laundry. She's liable to approach you and tell you what's wrong. What's wrong and who's responsible for that? The pipes are this and that. The sidewalk is this and that. And the machines and the dryers don't work. And the elevators are this and that. And she knows whose fault it is. That's just that projection, that uneasiness, that deep down uneasy feeling of being guilty of something. And so you need to go find the guilty party. All right. And as the Holy Spirit would direct us, that's a cry, that's a call for the love they think is missing. All right. I don't exist in a milieu of love, and this is why. Because the elevator don't work. And it's maintenance man's problem. All that. So I don't even know how I got there. So the term generosity has special meaning to the teacher of God because we know that giving is simultaneous with receiving. And he says, and it does, it really rests on the element of trust. All right? If I didn't trust in the Holy Spirit, and if I didn't trust in that memory of God, and that memory of who I was, right? If I didn't totally trust in that, how could I freely give away, or just freely allow love to come through my being? In the immortal words of St. Francis of Assisi, Lord, make me a channel of an instrument of your peace. All right. He was aware of his connection with the oneness, and he just wanted to extend that oneness. Let me extend it everywhere. That was generosity. All right. He was very generous with that. But he couldn't be that if he didn't 100% trust that he was connected to the oneness. That memory of who he really was. That he was beyond this form. All right. So to the world, generosity means giving away. To the teachers of God, it means giving away in order to keep. This has been emphasized throughout the text and the workbook. But it is even more alien to the thinking of the world than many other ideas in our curriculum. All right? The world looks at you like you're crazy. Its greatest strangeness lies merely in the obvious of its reversal of the world's thinking. So it really does reverse the world's thinking. And, common pedestrian will look at you like you're crazy if you say, well, giving is the same as receiving. Right? They'll just roll their eyes or back away. All right. In the clearest way possible, and at the simplest of levels, the word means the exact opposite to the teachers of God and to the world. All right. We've expounded enough on that. Paragraph 2. The teacher of God is generous out of self-interest. And he spells self with a capital S, not the little s, self. Not the little s, Kevin. Talking about the higher S, self, who you really are. So the teacher of God is generous out of self-interest. This does not refer, however, to the little s, self, of which the world speaks. The teacher of God does not want anything he cannot give away, because he realizes it would be valueless to him by definition. What would he want it for? He could only lose because of it. He could not gain. Therefore, he does not seek what only he could keep, because that is a guarantee of loss. He does not want to suffer. Why should he ensure himself pain? But he does want to keep for himself all things that are of God, and therefore his Son. These are the things that belong to him. These things he can give away in true generosity, protecting them forever for himself. So, the teacher of God does not want anything he cannot give away. All right? Because he realizes it would be valueless to him by definition. All right? So the first thing would be my individuality, which nobody's really aware of, not many. I mean, there are many people who are. All right? But all stuff, my stuff, if I give it away, I don't have it anymore. I said, but what you're holding on to is ultimately valueless. It's meaningless. You could only lose it. One day you're going to lose it. No matter how much you have, no matter how much you amass. Right? So everything that we amass in form, including holding on to this thing, this individual form, says you're going to lose it. And just the thought of it would make you suffer. Right? Therefore, he does not seek what only he could keep. Right? So the true teacher, the advanced teacher of God, doesn't look for things to keep. Right? Because you're gonna lose them, and then you suffer. Right? Because it guarantees loss. Right? And he does not want to suffer. Why should he ensure himself pain? Right? But he does want to keep for himself all things that are of God. So all things that are of God, the oneness, the joy, right? the love, all that. We have to use words to describe something that's indescribable. That's what Jesus means by the course comes in an ego form. Right? In an ego framework, he says, because we use words. Right? But the teacher of God only wants those things that are of God, and therefore himself. All right? You are, in the words of the Course, you are a son of God. So you only want those things that are for God, of God, and therefore for you. Right? The joy, the expansiveness, the safety, the happiness, all those words, they're all for you. That's what you want. These are the things that belong to him. These he can give away in true generosity, protecting them forever for himself. All right. Now we can all give these things away in a lot of different circumstances. Just by being that channel of love, have that channel open all the time, allowing it to come through you. It is given to everyone, and it will take the shape of what anyone needs, really. We don't need to know what to do exactly or what to say. If you need words, you'll be given words. If you need to do something, you'll get the idea of what you're supposed to do. But you just be. That's your foundation. You just exist in that milieu of love, of oneness, of spaciousness, in that present moment. And even doing that, you're giving it away. It's like you're beaming it. You are the lighthouse. Right? You are the beacon. You are the beacon guiding people to the same realization that you have. Right? You don't have to drag them. You don't have to convert them. Right? You don't have to convince anybody. Right? Just be. Just be. And just by being connected with your true self, you are naturally generous. Alrighty then. And it reinforces. Just grows stronger. All right. Just sit in that awareness and be generous. All right. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to the next time.